Welcome everyone to another edition of Where's the Deals, the series where I go online in search of good, bad, and yes, of course, terrible video game listings. And due to the difficulty in me finding much of anything, I've taken the liberty of saving a bunch of listings that I found over the course of the last month or so that I wanted to showcase and talk about. I figured it was a much easier way to make these videos going forward, simply because I no longer have to sit at home and scrounge on the marketplace recording hours of lackluster footage. And the format here is still going to be at large the same as always. So with that said, let's jump right ahead here with the first listing of the bunch. A PS1 bundled with 6 games, 2 controllers, and a memory card for $75. Now, right off the bat, you can see that this listing did in fact sell. $75 for this listing a few years back would have been a horrible deal. It's not really an amazing one these days because the games included aren't exactly valuable. I think the most valuable game here is the Tarzan one that's worth around $10. The least valuable being WWF Warzone, that's readily available for only a few dollars. The system itself years ago had very little value. You can find these all day long, all over the place for 10 to 25 bucks, and no one really bought them. Nowadays, for whatever reason, they sell for about $30 to $60, depending on obviously the condition and what's included. Like I said, it's not really a bad deal, but you could do so much better if you are, in fact, looking for a PlayStation bundle. PS2 games at $5 a pop, unless you buy more than the price drops. There's definitely some good stuff here. I would only buy games from this listing if you were getting them for $3 each or less, and you were grabbing quite a few titles. Great stuff here like those Need for Speed games, ATV Off-Road Fury, Monster Jam, a few SOCOM titles, and Marvel's Ultimate Alliance, Battlefront 2, the list goes on. And I almost wonder what this guy would want for everything. Not even for reselling. This would be an amazing start for someone who's either just getting into their PS2 collection or someone just getting into gaming in general. Tons of variety, tons of great titles. I see nothing wrong with this. Yeah, you can complain about the sports games, but whatever. There's really not that many here. So here we have another PS2 listing. And this one is for 20 games at the kind of strange price of $58. An average of under $3 a game. It's not really a bad deal considering the stuff here. Yeah, there's some cheap games or even garbage titles like Super Trucks Racing, American Idol, and a few others. But he has stuff here that debatably makes up for it. Flat Out 2 is kind of a cult classic that's worth over $10. Goosebumps, a game I've never seen in person, is worth roughly $15, and that No One Lives Forever game that I really want to find is worth, again, around $15. I say it's worth the seller's asking price of $58, although I'd play the haggling game here just a little bit to see if I can lower the price to $50 or less if possible. Again, it doesn't hurt to ask, as long as you're not insulting with your offer or just flat out stupid about it. Like, don't be offering $20 for this listing. You're just gonna piss them off. Quite a few PS3 games here, and this one sold for $60 and not that long ago. And I'll be honest with you, I actually wouldn't have bought this one. Yeah, fine, some of the games here are harder to come across, but none of them are exactly rare. Wheelman, Wanted Weapons of Fate, and Full Auto 2 are not super common, at least where I live. The other games, they're readily available and not worth a whole lot. The only game I think that is worth something here is that Naruto Ninja Storm 2, but it's disc only, and that of course lowers the value of the game considerably. Good for him for selling it though. I don't think I would have bit the bullet on this one for even $30, but that is just me. Good games here, sure, but what can I say? It's just not worth the price tag for me. So right here, we have what looks like someone's entire PlayStation collection for $250 or best offer. He's including the system, 12 controllers, numerous accessories, and over 165 games. The only thing about this listing that makes me question it is that 2 of the 7 images show Xbox 360 games, and 1 of which shows PS3 games. It's not exactly clear if those games are included in this listing or why they're even there in the first place. That being said, 165 plus games, the system, and all that other stuff is a goddamn good deal, especially when you take a look at the games that are included. He's got some Spyro and Crash Bandicoot titles, Ratchet & Clank, Red Faction, Sly Cooper, Tony Hawk games, and numerous others. I imagine he has loose games in that DVD holder, at least that's what I would assume. Again, the PS3 and 360 stuff throws me off quite a bit. I'd like to know more about what's going on with that, but still, this is a really good deal. Of course, with anything though, condition matters. So when you buy a large lot like this, you run the risk of purchasing games that have scratches, missing manuals, or in some instances, the disc isn't even inside the case. Obviously, you run that risk every single time you buy a game secondhand, but the difference here is that because you're buying in such a large quantity, are you going to want to take the time of checking every single game? Not only that, but is the seller going to be even willing to put up with you spending 30 minutes, if not longer, checking everything out? If the seller is cool with it, then hey, that's great, but not all sellers will be that generous. This next one here is a listing of 35 Xbox games, and the price was originally at $140, but the seller has since dropped it to $80. For good reason, because $140 is a very high asking price for really what we have here. For $80, things are definitely looking a lot better. He's got some great titles here like the Brothers in Arms games, Rogue Agent, Battlefront, Halo 2, and a few others. He does, however, have a lot of stuff here that holds very little value, but he makes up for it by having games like X-Men Legends 2, Need for Speed Underground 2, Battlefront, Major Malfunction, and a couple others that are worth around $10 each. It's not really a half-bad bundle here. It's decent price, great variety, and great games, all things considered. Next up is 22 Xbox 360 games. This one did end up selling again not that long ago, and I can see why too, because the seller has quite a few uncommon or even harder to find titles in this bundle here. Enchanted Arms, Dark Sector, Divinity 2, and Blue Dragon are games I very rarely come across. Outside of that though, this listing is riddled with great games, some of which are worth upwards to $17. Yeah, of course, there's some here that are only worth like a couple bucks, but the expensive ones more than make up for that, and then some. Like I said, I'm not surprised this one sold. It's a great listing. The only thing that worries me is that the seller has somewhat of a low rating. I tend to avoid sellers with anything less than 4 stars on Marketplace, but that's just me. So, listings like this confuse me. Every so often I come across a seller or two who has a decent stack of the exact same game. In this case, Cyberpunk, which he's charging $30 each. This listing I remember first seeing it not too long after Cyberpunk was initially released. The seller claims that they are all brand new open box games. To me, that's incredibly unrealistic because how does the seller know whether or not they've ever been touched on a disk drive? Plus, I am under the opinion that as soon as you remove the wrapping of a new game, it is no longer new, regardless if it's ever technically been opened. But that's not the point here. How does this guy have so many copies of the same game, especially of a game that didn't come out that long ago? Are they returned copies or what? I honestly have no clue. The last listing for today's video is this one here for 15 NES games, and this one did end up selling for $75. Again, no surprise whatsoever why this one sold. I mean, come on, anyone else would have charged upwards to $100, maybe even $200 for this exact same listing. Granted, this seller sure doesn't have anything super valuable. I think the highest ticketed game here would be that Double Dragon, being worth somewhere around $15, But still, a lot of people think that because it's old and because it's Nintendo, that the games are worth 20 bucks each, if not more. And this is just not the case, as plenty of games included in this listing are worth anywhere from $3 to $7. Of course, you have others like Simon's Quest that hold more value here, but still. You would not believe how many times I've come across sellers at garage sales, antique malls, secondhand shops, hell, even flea markets, where these people have older cartridge-based games charging as much as maybe 5-10 times the game's true value. For 75 bucks, it's a great listing, especially if you care about the games included in this particular lot. Unfortunately for me, I'm not super familiar with even half the games here, so I personally wouldn't be a buyer for this, but regardless, for anyone who would be, this is a great deal. And that's gonna do it for today's video, everyone. Someone on a previous video recommended that I take a look at eBay listings for future episodes. I actually like that idea a lot because there's tons of listings on eBay that I'm sure I could talk about. eBay in general, I dislike a lot. I've sold a bunch of shit on eBay over the past 7-8 years. The problem is there's a lot of scammers. I mean, I could tell you guys horror stories of just different tales of bullshit I've dealt with both on the selling and buying ends, but I'm not sure if that's anything any of you would really care about. So with that said, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and of course, like always, take care.